So I'm going to do a reaction video to Dick Butkus, the NFL Hall of Famer who died today at 80 years old. He died peacefully in his sleep. He died in his California home in Malibu. You know, what a nice, relaxing place to live your life and finally pass away. Considering he was one of the most vicious, and I say that as a compliment, NFL linebackers to ever play the game. So let's watch the video.
I remember walking up to the line of scrimmage, and I looked to the left and started calling a signal, and looked to the right and started calling the rest of the signal, and I looked straight ahead. Here's the man that you fear most in football staring you right in the face. What he said to me, I can't repeat. The censors would have a ball, and immediately...
Oh, could you imagine in today's game if you even curse at a player, the flag comes out? You know, you can't even... You're not even allowed to, you know, be emotional on the field anymore because today's cream puffs. Between the referees, you know, who think it's about them, or the players, you know, crying that somebody cursed at them. You know, you're not allowed to talk like that anymore because, you know, football, we're all supposed to read poetry to each other.
My voice kind of quivered and started cracking.
He was the greatest intimidator that ever played football. I don't know how good a football player was. He scared the hell out of people.
He told me he was going to kick mine. You know what? The first time I ever played against him, my rookie year.
Dick was an animal. I called him a maniac.
When another football player as great as Deacon Jones calls you an animal and a maniac, it's nothing but a compliment. I mean, I wouldn't want to be called anything else.
Stone maniac.
He's the kind of linebacker that when he hit our back would go back in the huddle. He'd be talking out his ear hole. He'd want to know who was supposed to block that crazy sucker.
Before you could begin to try to block on Dick, you had to overcome the mystique. And he didn't appreciate this, but I said it was almost like an odor. He exuded a kind of a presence.
They tried to hurt you. You know,
He wasn't worried about TikTok dances or Instagram or, you know, being friends with the other players and going on vacation after the game. It was about winning. Let's win at all costs. Let's be totally focused on what we're doing right here, right now. 60 minutes of pure chaos, and let's win. Okay? Not like today's garbage.
he was just so competitive. You know, not only did he not want you to gain a yard, he didn't want you to gain an inch. You know, as soon as you had that football, you were the enemy.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Dick Butkus played football with a religious fervor, with an unrelenting obsession not only to excel, but to dominate and demoralize.
Dick was not satisfied with just an ordinary tackle. He had to hit you, pick you up, drive you, and grind you into the ground.
For Dick Butkus, football was never a game, but a street fight. A place for all-out, no-holds-barred warfare.
He was an animal, and he was a well-conditioned animal, and every time he hit you, he tried to put you in the cemetery, not the hospital.
Butkus was the most destructive defender in the game. And the NFL is filled with horror stories of tough men who crossed him.
Oh, look at that hit, right? Look at that hit over the middle. Today there would be the whole crowd would anticipate a flag, and then the refs would throw the flag because the crowd wanted, because it's too rough. What the hell are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about? Does anybody feel that way about boxing when boxers punch? It's football, okay? You know what you signed up for. So now we're going to turn it into something that it's not, right? We're going to make it about coloring books and rainbows and what the athletes wear when they walk into the locker room, and Instagram and fantasy football and all this other BS. But that's what it's about, being physical, about dominating your opponent and winning. But that all gets lost in 2023 with the cream puffs that we call men.
He knocked out L.C. Greenwood on a punt. I remember, and he knocked out Warren Banks, and he was a backup fullback we had, but a good special teams player. And I remember Warren sitting on the sideline crying. He says, "I don't know who I am," because Butkus had blindsided and just KO'd him.
For Dick to run a 100-yard dash, it'd take him 3 days. But I want to tell you something. From that middle linebacker, 20 yards this way, 20 yards that way, 20 yards that way. I mean, nobody was quicker than he was. He made a lot of interceptions. If he was told in past defenses to be in a certain area, I mean, he was there. He had great hands. The man was unbelievable. His whole damn life was football. Forget about it. Wasn't driving a pretty car. It wasn't going to the local bar and pounding your chest, "I'm the greatest." It was the opposite.
I'm really not the tough macho guy that was only during the game, and no matter how hard you try to explain that, sure you were, So
he's basically a pain in the ass. Again, I know him, and he's got a personality like a fried lobster.
It was horrifying playing against him because he can intimidate literally an entire offensive team, and I mean good teams.
We had a rookie center that was playing against him for the first time. And, of course, you remember Butkus grunted a lot and growled a lot when he was backing up the line. And we sent this rookie center in to play for us. And the first time he came off, his eyes were about like this. He couldn't believe what he was hearing from Butkus. Butkus had him intimidated. He hadn't even blocked him yet.
Butkus dominated a game the way no other player ever has. He dominated officials. He'd take the ball away from the guy after the play and shake it in the official's face, and the official would point it their way. It was awesome.
I was working, and Butkus came up to me, and he started to wave his finger at me. I sort of smiled at him. I said, "Butkus," I said, "don't wave your finger at me." I said, "I'll bite your head off." He looked at me and said, "Well, if you bite my head off, you'll have more brains in your stomach than you will have in your head."
Oh yeah, today's refs, it would have been all about them, and they would have, demanded that Butkus go to mental health counseling, and their feelings would have been hurt. They would have been butthurt, and it would have been all about the referee. And all through the ESPN headlines, it would have been how the player was abusing the referee, because that's what a cream puff society we live in nowadays.
From his personality to the impact of his tackles, everything Dick Butkus did was memorable. Although he played on only 2 winning teams, he did not lower his standards to fit the company. He was Moby Dick in a goldfish bowl. His 9-year career stands apart as the single most sustained work of devastation ever committed on a football field by anyone, anywhere, anytime. To talk about him is to drain the vocabulary of superlatives.
Well, the only thing I can say about the great Dick Butkus, I'll say it in a poem. Roses are red and violets are blue. If you got any sense, you'll keep Butkus away from you.
Dick Butkus played 9 years in the NFL. He had 1,020 tackles, so that means he averaged over 100 tackles every single year that he played. Unfortunately for him, he suffered a bad knee injury, And, the technology wasn't the same as it is now. If you got a bad ACL tear, your career was basically never the same. 1,020 tackles in 9 years and 22 interceptions. I mean, those numbers alone are amazing. But forget the football player. As far as being a man and what men are supposed to be, I don't think we're going to find too many Dick Butkuses left on the planet. We're a feminization of the West, a feminization of the world, and they just don't make Dick Butkuses anymore for the most part. I'm talking about the man, the football player, and everything that he was, not just a football player, but the way he carried himself. Today's players, you watch the game, and you're like, you know what? For the most part, these spoiled, rich brat athletes who are coddled, they don't even like you. They think you're like a moron for even watching them. They're just hard to like. They're not likable guys at this. Most of them are not likable guys. That's all I'll say.